Hey, it's Jocelyn, and welcome to the Positivity in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. I am excited to be here today because I have a special interview for you that I did with a childbirth lawyer, and I will read you her bio after my intro music. But it was a good conversation. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to remind you that you are doing awesome things in growing your baby. I know that this season can be really hard, it can be very difficult to do things, but keep it up, mama. Your body is doing amazing things. You are doing amazing things. And you're doing amazing things by training your mind, by striving to have positivity, and to implement positive thoughts into your life. If you need further help or if there is something specific you are looking for, my website now has a search option. You can search what you're looking for, and I likely have done a podcast on it. And if I haven't, reach out and I will get a podcast on your specific topic soon. My email is in the show notes. My website is pregnancyishard.com. And let's jump into this awesome interview with Gina Mundy on how to have a safer birth. Hi, I'm Jocelyn, host of the Positive in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. I help pregnant women and mothers to find positivity in their season of life through changing their thoughts to work for them and not against them. I help mothers find the small, doable steps in thought and action without making drastic changes to their everyday mom life. And I can help you. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the Positivity in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. I am Jocelyn, and I'm really excited today to have Gina Mundy with us. She's an attorney specializing in childbirth cases. She's also a best-selling author, speaker, podcaster, wife, and mother of 3. So I'm going to read you her bio to introduce her. Gina Mundy is an attorney that specializes in childbirth cases. For over 2 decades, she has analyzed the mistakes that are made during labor and delivery. Drawing on this knowledge, she has authored the book, A Parent's Guide to a Safer Childbirth, to help parents prevent these mistakes and have a healthy baby. Rather than merely getting involved after an unfortunate mistake was made, Gina has taken a proactive approach by getting involved before childbirth. And today we're going to talk about how to have a safer childbirth. So Gina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure. Jocelyn, thank you for having me. I am excited for our conversation today.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I live in Michigan. That's where I was born and raised. Now I'm raising my family here. I have 3 kids. Let's see, they're getting older now, 20, 16. My older ones are girls. And then I have my little man. He is 9. I've been married for 21 years. And I have also been an attorney specializing in childbirth cases for 21 years. So basically, I graduated law school, needed a first job, stumbled on this job, and been there ever since. But when I was hired into a team of over 20 people. And this is all they did were the baby cases, which I found shocking because in law school, college life, I've never heard of a baby lawyer before. So when I stumbled on this job, having a baby was on my radar. And when I saw what was happening in my cases, I wanted to make sure that those things did not happen during the birth of my babies. So I stuck with it. And, I'm still doing it. 21 years later, I'm a partner in my law firm. But as the attorney on these cases, I basically, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. The cases involve the birth of a baby when, something goes wrong and baby's not born healthy. Baby may pass away, or sometimes mom passes away during childbirth. So I come in as the attorney and I find out what happened, what went wrong, why. More importantly, what should have been done so mom was around to raise her baby, or, baby born healthy. And those questions have taken me all over the United States many, many times in almost every hospital system, meeting with delivery teams, hashing out labor and delivery, and so forth. So let's see, about 19 years deep into my profession, I authored the book, A Parent's Guide to a Safer Childbirth, but that was following a near family, tragic event during the birth of a baby in my family. And it just kind of stopped me in my tracks. It kind of took me out of the grind a little bit. And I realized that what I've been doing for 19 years, there are reoccurring issues, there are reoccurring facts, and whatnot. So I started to write things down actually initially just for my kids, because I can tell you how I would prepare my kids for childbirth is, completely different than how a traditional family would prepare, given what I've seen. Keep in mind, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just the attorney on the cases. Medical professionals, I'm jealous. They get to see the good and the bad. I only see the bad. And then I have to, live these cases for years at a time, meeting the families, meeting the witnesses. It's hard. So anyway, I started to write everything down, and as almost like let's get ready for make sure my grandkids are healthy. But then as I went from attorney to author, I realized that I knew stuff that could not only help my kids, but families around the world.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I feel like seeing the bad can help you know what good needs to happen in order to avoid the bad. And I think that's powerful that you want to share with more than just your kid.
Yeah.
So what can pregnant women do to have a safer birth? What helps in that? What have you observed?
Oh, I love that question. That is the whole reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is to help parents have a safer childbirth. So in my book, this is the best way to describe it. There are the chapter 1 are the lessons from the baby cases. As lessons, almost like you just said, we can learn from the past to prevent it from happening in the future. So understanding each one of these lessons in chapter 1 is so incredibly important. And then each lesson listed in chapter 1 is a subsequent chapter. So then I elaborate, okay, this is exactly what you need to know. So number 1 lesson, you have to prepare for childbirth. Decision making during childbirth is so incredibly important. Parents are literally one decision or minutes from a healthy baby in my cases. And mom is the decision maker. The medical team, they are advisors. So, it's like anything in life. If you're ready and you're prepared, you're going to be able to communicate better and you're going to be able to make better decisions with your delivery team. But again, I don't say, okay, learn about labor and delivery, have a nice day. No. So then you go to chapter 2. These are the things I find important about childbirth from my perspective as an attorney. So when I get a new case in and I look at the case and I'm like, okay, so I have to go through the medical records and I have to figure out, is this good care or bad care? And then in order to kind of come up with this conclusion, I then, basically what's in chapter 2, these are the things I rely on to figure out what kind of care mom received, during labor and delivery. So that by far is number 1. And then also you got to keep in mind that, your delivery team is so incredibly important. They are responsible for bringing your baby safely into this world. When there is a case, it is their care that is at issue and analyzed more than any other aspect of the case. So it's very important that you have an understanding of who may be on your delivery team. What is their role? Your doctor, doctor is very important. He heads the delivery team or she heads the delivery team. However, most doctors who head the delivery team are not at the hospital. They come in to catch baby or check on you unless they're picking up a 12-hour shift. Your delivery team are typically the people who are scheduled to work that day beside your doctor. So, there's definitely some factors that you need to consider and understand. And you need to understand too that if you don't like somebody on your delivery team, if you don't get along with your nurse. Now, listen, I love labor and delivery nurses. Oh my goodness, they can be the most amazing humans. But like every profession, I've met some that I'm like, oh my goodness, I would never let this nurse be, my kid's nurse, for, birth of my grandkids. So if you get one of those, you got to know what to do. And again, that's something my book explains. So a lesson there is understanding your delivery team. Another lesson, and that's chapter 3 is the delivery team. Chapter 4, how to pick the good doctor. I've analyzed OBGYNs now for 21 years. And basically, I have the whole attorney analysis. I'm like, okay, moms, now you have to do like your own analysis. And I tell them, this is what you need to consider. And it's a couple like simple things. You got to go fall back on instinct, intuition, communication, and whatnot. But I go through that in the book. And then at the end of that chapter, I'm like, okay, here's 20 things you need to know about your doctor, or ask your doctor, find out about your doctor in order to make sure they're a good fit for you. Because what people have to, everyone has to understand, and this was one of the most shocking things when I did get hired in to my firm, is that different doctors have completely different opinions. I mean, completely different opinions. I'll give you an example. I had a case. I retained two medical experts who were doctors on the case, doctors who deliver babies. As experts, I pay them to look at the medical records and give me their professional opinion. Was this good care or was it bad care? And the first doctor will tell me everything in that case for the delivery of the baby and mom was done wrong. Everything. And the next doctor will then tell me the exact opposite. Everything was done right. And, the second doctor, I remember talking to the second doctor and being like, how do you think everything's right? And this doctor believes everything was wrong. And, they just dismiss each other. They're like, well, that doctor doesn't know what they're talking about. And it's like, okay, but no, different doctors, different opinions. And that's so incredibly important. Another one of the lessons, understand the hospital you're delivering at. And there's different levels of hospitals, but the afterbirth care of baby is so incredibly important. I know nobody wants to anticipate anything going wrong, but if you do have a higher risk delivery for some reason, you may want to consider delivering at a hospital that's a higher level. So basically in that chapter, I go through like the different levels of hospitals, the care they provide. I go through, what I think is a low risk delivery versus a high risk delivery, and kind of recommend which kind of hospital that you should be looking at. And if you do have a high risk type delivery, I even recommend picking your hospital and then your doctor. So just a lot of things to consider. But another one of the lessons, and then I elaborate on this on chapter 6, have a plan. Listen, as the childbirth attorney, my spin on a plan's a little bit different. It's the act of preparing the plan from the comfort of your own home. When you go into labor, you enter a different state of mind. You want to make sure that when you're learning about childbirth, preparing for it, again, you're doing it in a nice, calm environment. You're excited, you're ready to get ready. And then you put your plan together because, childbirth is very unpredictable. So you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to, change course. And you do that more easily if you can kind of marinate in these possible decisions you may have to make, before childbirth. So I give you like, the top 10 things that are critical decisions that should be considered ahead of time. Chapter
Yes, I
7,
love that.
thank you. Yes, that one, and I get it. Some people are like, I don't want to do a birth plan. I don't want to I'm like, no. Just, and even in that chapter, I'm like, listen, you should give it to your delivery team because they'll have a better understanding of what you want. You don't have to though. If you don't really
Yeah.
want to walk up and give it to your delivery team, that's fine. Seriously, just prepare it. Spend weeks, months preparing it. Get ready and research. And then you know what? You'll know it in your head, and that's all that matters in the end.
I used to be
Um,
against having a plan because, like you say, it's unpredictable, and my first birth was unpredictable. He came 9 weeks early because I had severe preeclampsia and HELP syndrome. But come baby
wow.
five, yeah, it was not a good situation, but we both survived, and that was a blessing. But baby number five, I had talked to my doula, and she's like, if you don't have a plan, your delivery team doesn't know what you want. And so, like, even if
Mhm.
it doesn't happen the way that you want, like according to plan, at least your delivery team will know what you want. So I've definitely switched my opinion on that a little bit.
Oh,
And
good. Good.
that's,
And I'm happy to hear you're okay. HELP syndrome, when we were talking pre-show, you said preeclampsia, which is bad. HELP syndrome is like really bad. Like
it
that
was.
as an attorney scares the crap out of me. I hate that word. Just
I
because,
was, oh,
yeah.
go for it.
No, I get the bad outcomes on HELP, and it's
Yeah.
really, really scary and sad. And so, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, I was a week in labor. I stayed a week in labor and delivery. They said that was the longest stay of anyone in labor and delivery because I was so, it was really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, grateful we're here. And then you were going to mention number 7, and then I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
Oh, you know what? Feel free to interrupt me because I can just keep talking. So I'll be like,
Oh,
hey, just chime right in.
no, I love
I'll
it.
catch on. Okay. So I love that you just said doula. So chapter 7 is baby advocate, and that's having your support person. Now listen, um, in my book, basically I went from the grind of an attorney and then I spent 14 months, thousands of hours writing this book, but and then I published it. So I figured out quickly after I published it how amazing doulas are. And the reason they're not totally in my book, I mean, I do mention doula as part of a delivery team in passing. I'm going to actually try. I just got my manuscript so I can update the doula section, but since I published my book in June 2023, I've learned so much about doulas. And okay, ready? The childbirth attorney who only sees the bad stuff knows nothing about doulas because doulas are helping families bring babies, into this world healthy. So I'm just such a huge fan. But chapter 7 is same thing as a doula, like a support person. So it could be husband, best friend, mom. Grandmas are the best. Support person. And I'll tell you, grandmas are loving my book, and it would make sense because I wrote it to have healthy grandkids. So I think that grandmas really, and I'm a very direct person, and grandmas are my generation. So yeah, grandmas really do love it. But at the end of that book, or end of that chapter, I do give like the 5 things that every baby advocate really should know and understand in order to be a good, good advocate. And that would be simple things like understanding the delivery, or understanding the birth plan. So you prepare the birth plan, you need to go over it with your baby advocate to make sure you're on the same page. And if there are any disagreements, again, comfort of your own home versus on the spot in labor and delivery. And then things like, actually, they're actually subsequent chapters, so I'll keep going. But yeah, there's 5 things every baby advocate should know. You give them a job, like a new job, they have some training, they're good to go. And again, having that second set of eyes on baby and you is just so incredibly important because the delivery team cannot be at your bedside 24/7. Um, Chapter 8 is understanding the different types of fetal monitors. There's 3 types, and it's so incredibly important. So many of my cases involve, maybe the wrong type of monitor, and whatnot. So understanding your 3 options is huge. And, it also may correlate with your personal preferences too. So important. Chapter 9. Oh, I love this one. The baby's heart rate, learning how to read the fetal monitor. Listen, I don't know why, but the medical community seems like they want to keep the baby's heart rate to themselves. I am like, no way, Jose. That is something every parent should have an understanding of. So I wrote a chapter on it. I'll tell you, as a childbirth attorney, the first thing I learned how to do was read the baby's heart rate. And in my cases, and I put this testimony in my cases, this testimony is from doctors. They say, Gina, the only way a baby can talk to me during labor is through their heart rate. Meaning, if your baby advocate, doula understands the baby's heart rate, it's like the baby can talk to you and tell say, so I can look at a baby's heart rate and be like, baby's a rock star, baby is struggling. So, if you have a basic understanding of that, I mean, it's just so incredibly important. And that can be the basis of so many decisions in labor and delivery. It's almost like the baby's heart rate is square one. And if there's a concern or something's going on, then there's like test interventions. They'll talk to you, they'll give you options. So it's just very important to have a basic understanding. Now, you may look at a baby's heart rate and it might seem intimidating at first. So I warn everybody in the chapter, I'm like, listen, you may have to read it twice. This chapter probably is a good hour and a half, 2 hours, but to have an understanding of it, I cannot emphasize that enough. And then chapter 10, understanding the tests and interventions that actually I just mentioned. So if there is a concern about your baby's heart rate, it doesn't go concern baby's heart rate to C-section or operative vaginal delivery. It's like usually what happens if there's something on the strip that they're not liking, or they think baby might be, struggling, or something's going on inside. Again, baby's inside mom. So it's hard to figure out, how baby's doing. Mom, when there's when mom's in labor, there's two patients. There's mom and there's baby. Mom, super easy because they can look at mom, they can be like, oop, mom's in a lot of pain. Mom communicates, they can make a diagnosis, they can make a plan and so forth. Baby is much, much different. They have to kind of do like these tests and interventions to see how baby's doing, what might be going on inside. So if they're doing these, it's really important to have an understanding of what they're doing before you go into childbirth. So if they do something, um, you understand what they're doing. You understand what they're saying. Again, streamlined communication, better communication. And when you have that streamlined communication, it's not like they have to describe everything to you and you're hearing it for the first time while you're in labor. And, the important information can get swallowed up by the small details that they have to, just, explain everything. So understanding tests and interventions is just so important. And then chapter 11. This is the most important chapter of the entire book. It is why I wrote the book. This is not information that you will find anywhere else. Chapter 11 are the common facts and common issues in the legal baby cases. So if you as parents know what these are, it can give you, like a heightened sense of awareness. It can help activate your intuition, help you make better decisions, understand that, if there is a complication, or understand under what circumstances, complications and mistakes occur when, a baby, is not born healthy. But having that understanding is so important. So chapter 11, I'll give you a couple of them. Chapter 11 will tell you that the number one most common fact and issue in a legal baby case is the drug Pitocin. Pitocin is the drug that's used to induce mom's labor by making her uterus contract. Pitocin is in the majority of my cases. Now, with that said, what's not typically in my cases, and which I'm a huge fan of, is natural spontaneous birth. Skip the Pitocin, skip the epidural. Those cases are few and far between. So now, again, families understand that, if there's Pitocin, that's when complications and mistakes can arise. Those are the labors where, you have to be really careful in the decisions you're making. Spontaneous vaginal birth, less chance of a mistake or complication happening. Another one that it's very interesting is most complications or mistakes occur after mom's water breaks. So if a doctor recommends, remember, doctor is not telling you they're going to break your water. Doctor is recommending that they're going to break your water. It's important to, respond with, is there a medical reason for you to break my water, or do you want to be home for dinner? Listen, as the childbirth attorney, I've heard both. Literally, I know you're like, so, well, and I'll tell you, your key time, if you go for an elective Pitocin induction, it's 7 a.m. So you usually go in the night before for an elective Pitocin induction. They ripen the cervix. They'll start Pitocin earlier, in the morning. Doctors will come in, do a round, and if they're coming in at 7, they typically, if possible, like to break mom's bag of water, and that gets mom going, and they can be home for dinner. So warning. I like, if you can, just keep the water intact as long as possible. Again, everybody's different. That might not be an option for, whatever reason. Another common fact in a legal baby case, a busy labor and delivery unit. That so many times the unit's just jammed, eyes off the prize and whatnot. And then that goes back to why having a baby advocate, having a doula, having that second set of eyes on you is so incredibly important. And then
Oh, go for it.
I was going to say, and then back to baby advocate chapter, real quick, chapter 7, when I'm like, okay, this is what baby advocate has to know. So birth plan, but then I also recommend baby advocate should understand chapter 11, the common facts and issues in a baby case. And then they should also understand how to read the baby's heart rate. So I just
Yes.
want to, throw
I
that in
love
there.
that. And I was gonna say, I actually did not do a doula until my fifth baby, which I just had a few weeks ago, and she made a huge difference. She knew stuff about the hospital, she knew about providers because I was thinking about changing providers. Like she was just so informational, and then when I told her my plan, she knew what I wanted.
Mhm.
I was so informational, and having that baby advocate I feel like made a huge difference, especially when she met me at the hospital and knew I didn't want to do an epidural. I didn't want to cave to Pitocin or anything like that. And she was able to support me. And I'm definitely a huge fan of baby advocates and doulas, but also telling your husband what you desire too. Because sometimes you think
Mhm.
he knows, or your partner. In my case, it's my husband, but they don't know unless you tell them. Like there were a few things I wanted. I wanted to try and labor in water, but he didn't know that until you know what I mean? You got to tell them what you
Yeah.
desire. And so
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of your chapter 7 already as well.
Yeah. No, listen, and I think, you know, dads, that's I hate saying this. And then I really do. And I've said it on a couple of podcasts, and then I'll think about it and be like, should I really be saying that on a podcast? But when I have to sit down with the families in the cases and I have to go over the day their baby was born, by far the hardest part of my job. Um, the families, the mom, the dads typically know so much more in the aftermath of something going wrong that I know I just stare at them and it's like if they would have known this beforehand, it's very possible they wouldn't have ever met me.
I've been
And
in
it's
that situation.
yeah.
Information is definitely power and can help in, like you say, these situations.
Yeah. I didn't tell you this, but I actually just started a podcast called The Childbirth Attorney Podcast with Gina Mundy. And it's not released yet. I actually recorded 3 episodes. I'm supposed to release it in 2 days. I don't know. I may release it next week, knowing me. I keep delaying it, but I'll tell you, I didn't know if I was going to do it until I recorded my first episode. And my first episode is Bailey's story. And I'm not kidding you. This happened 4 months ago. Basically, she walked in with a healthy baby and she left, and her baby is not healthy permanently. And the scary part is Bailey's a nurse.
Oh,
And because she did have the medical training and, she was a good nurse. Now, she wasn't a labor and delivery nurse and she didn't know anything about labor and delivery, but she just was like, oh, I'm a nurse and I'm a good nurse. I take care of my patients. So she just rolled up to labor and delivery and she just trusted her delivery team. And it's so heartbreaking because when I talk to her, she says, the guilt behind, just trusting the guilt and anger. The anger is actually trusting the delivery team. The guilt is, not getting ready for childbirth. And so, but I started with her powerful story. And I mean, I couldn't sleep that night. And I knew now that having this podcast, it's a must because it's still happening. I mean, I get new cases in. I'm still a practicing attorney for the childbirth cases. But then after that episode, I recorded 2 episodes, one with a doula, one with a labor and delivery nurse, on how to have a safe, their opinion on how to have a safe childbirth. So it's kind of starting with Bailey's story, but then, it's going to go forward with, okay, families, this is what you have to know, not just from me. These are people, they're the people in the trenches doing this. And this is what they say, but just trying to create this all around, environment that, everybody can learn from to have a healthy baby.
I love that. I'm a huge advocate for a safer birth. Like you say, I started with an emergency C-section, then I was induced once and had epidural for 2 births and then went natural for the last 2, and it's been a learning curve for me, but I want other women to learn
Mhm.
faster than I did, and having resources like your podcast and hopefully my podcast can help these women prepare for a safer childbirth and be able to take their babies home without complications or death or anything like that. You have given so many tips, and I am So excited for everybody to hear and listen to this. Is there any other advice or things that you would like to tell pregnant mamas before I talk about some of your free offers and where to find you?
Oh, sure. So hold on, I'll just finish real quick.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows. So that was in chapter 11, the huge chapter. But then there's also a chapter on epidurals that everybody must know. C-section is 13, chapter 14, because Pitocin is the most common fact in a legal baby case. And I've studied this drug, researched this drug, traveled the country talking about this drug. I did write a chapter on how to have a safe Pitocin induction. And it is a chapter that should be read, even if you're pregnant and you have no intention on doing Pitocin. Sometimes that plan changes when you get to the hospital. So understanding Pitocin, absolutely huge. But no, all I want to just finish with is, you know, the day you hold your baby for the first time is just such a powerful and life-changing moment. I know for me, it was a day that I dreamt of ever since I was a little girl playing with my baby dolls. So just getting ready to make sure that you do enjoy that powerful, just life-changing moment is so incredibly important. Just trust me as a childbirth attorney because I see the other side of it. And that's what I'm doing is just to make sure that everybody enjoys that powerful moment. Anybody who listens to me, reads my book, I'm really hoping that yeah, they can enjoy that moment and leave the hospital and enjoy the rest of their life with their family.
Oh, that is so powerful. You're gonna make me cry because I just had my baby a few weeks ago and
Hmm.
feeling all the feels, and it is so powerful to be able to bring your little ones home and hold them close. Anyway, see if I can wipe some tears away and continue on. Gina actually has chapter one, and my baby's right here if you hear him.
I
She
love
has
that.
chapter one available for free on your website. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So
I know that if everybody at least understands the lessons from the childbirth cases, that you're going to be sitting pretty. So if at least you know, okay, you need to understand what these things are. And if you want to get my book and then finish learning about what I think is important about those, great. Or start Googling, whatever you got to do. But I know even just knowing these lessons will help families have a healthy baby. And then the reason I wrote the book is also on the website. It's called The Born Emergency. And that is my niece's story. And it's very moving, but you'll understand once you go through that chapter exactly why I am here today.
yes, I read that on your website, and it is very moving, and I feel like you can learn a lot from her book, and just starting with chapter one can give you insight into more and possibly ordering her book. So I will have all of her, like, the ways to connect with her in the show notes. And yeah, I think we'll wrap up today with so much good information for having a safer childbirth. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Jocelyn, thank you for having me. Great conversation. I'm so incredibly impressed. You just had a baby. You're already doing your podcast because you're out there trying to do great things. So thanks for having me. And I know the mom is out there. Thank you too.
Oh, you are so kind. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Positive in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast, for listening, for sharing, and most of all, for applying these tools into your own life to improve your own happiness so that you can find your own better thoughts for a better you in a positive pregnancy, in losing that stubborn baby weight, and becoming the mom you desire to be through taking small steps in thought and action to reach your goals. If you are a mother who has an inner desire to enjoy motherhood and pregnancy better, but you are having difficulty figuring it out, I can help you. I can help you find the small, doable steps without drastic changes to your everyday mom life. Reach out, let's connect, and let's see you move forward. My name is Jocelyn, and I thank you for listening. Until next time.